calling for changes in their community. That's a message hundreds of Freeport residents spread as they gather downtown to participate in an anti-gun violence peace march. WIFR reporter Alyssa Kelly talks with the Freeport police chief and the founder of High Hope, which organizes the march, about the changes they want to see in their community.
Freeport police work to ensure a safe place for all who live and visit the city of Freeport. But organizers of the Peace March say enough to gun violence. Love in this city. Hundreds of Freeport residents gather Saturday chanting messages like enough is enough to put an end to gun violence.
One shooting incident is one too many, so we want to make sure we have no shooting incidents every year.
High Hope Freeport is a group that started a few months ago. They do not want Freeport residents to sit silent any longer and look for justice.
There's no way that you can sit silent when this is going on and not do anything. To me, complaining without action is just useless words.
William Brown spent 22.5 years in prison for first-degree murder, according to Freeport. Once he got out, he established a nonprofit called High Hope Freeport after noticing an uptick in gun violence locally.
Started just walking around in the community, meeting with a lot of the youth. From there, it went on to approaching the city, getting involved, letting them know, like, hey, it's something that needs to be done. Ultimately, the goal is to save lives and not have any more mourning mothers.
Marvette Brooks lost her son, a father to 3 kids, on November 18th, 2021. Saturday, Brooks marched to promote change.
When it happened, they said it was a lot of people that came in, a lot of witnesses, a lot of this, a lot of that, but there's still no justice.
We gonna say their names. They have families. And that Freeport is what I think it is. They have a community.
Brown says an important message from Saturday's march is making sure the families of victims are seen and heard, that the city needs more resources like High Hope.
Brown adds one of the most important things is parenting. Knowing what your kids are doing and what they are involved in is a key component.